loaded envelope mini album, I'm going to go ahead and give you the measurements of the paper and for the chipboard for the cover. Start with the base pages. The base pages, you're going to need 4 of them, and those measure 10 by 12. You are going to need 4 that measure 3.5 by 11, and that will be for the long pocket, be on the back side. I have a bad shadow, sorry. You are going to need 8 pieces that are 1.5 by 4 1/4. Man, that's a really bad shadow. 1.5 by 4 1/4, and those are going to be the magnet closures on the back so that things don't fall out of those pockets. You'll need 4 that measure 6 by 8 3/4. This is for the accordion pocket in the front of the envelope. And then finally, as far as paper goes, you're going to need 4 that measure 6 3/4. 6 3/4 by 3 1/4, and that, every time I bring it closer, it's really hard to see, so let me see if I can help. There we go. Okay, those are the papers. You're going to need 3 pieces of chipboard that measure 6 3/4 by 4. One will be the bottom because it's going to be standing. One will be the top, and then one is going to be the flap. Okay. And you'll need 2 pieces that measure 6 3/4 by 11. And let's go ahead and get started by making our base pages. Let me move everything off to the side here. And let me go back to adjusting. All right, let me adjust the settings so you can see. Okay, so we are going to start with our 10 by 12 sheets, and we're going to go ahead and place the 12 inches across the top. And what we're going to do is we're going to first score at 3 inches. Go ahead and turn your paper around so that you have the other edge, and that one's going to be 3.5 inches. Let me double check before I do it. Yeah, 3.5. Okay, we're going to do that to all 4. 3 inches with the 12-inch side across the top, and then I just rotate it to the other side and go to 3.5 this time. Two more. 3 and 3.5. Okay. I usually go down twice. See, oops. Go ahead and rotate that. Okay. Well, let's go ahead and burnish on those score lines, making sure that everything lines up nice and neat. I have a certain score tool I like to use, so let me find that. Or burnishing tool, excuse me. Once you find one you like, that's the one you always want to go to. So, okay. So I'm going to burnish it on each score line. Okay. And then you'll see that when you overlap, you do have about a 1/2 inch to 3, well, maybe it's close to an inch, overlap, and that's where we're going to glue it, and it'll be sealed, and this will become the back and this will become the front. We're going to leave the bottom open because that's what's going to attach to our hinges, and then the top, I'm going to go ahead and do this before I glue. I'm going to have 2 page styles at the top. One is going to be cut down the side, and the pieces are going to fold over, and then I'm going to do another style at the top too, so that there's just so it's not so repetitive. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my ruler for centering, and I'm going to find the center. And let's see. It doesn't have to be, well, I mean, as close as you can. Okay, about right there. And I'm going to go ahead and put a pencil mark so I know the halfway mark. And I'm also going to measure down because I want to cut it to down a certain length. I liked it the most at 2 7/8. So I'm going to measure down 2 7/8 and put a little tally mark. Okay, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut from that center point down to the 2 7/8 mark. Okay, now you can do that with your trimmer, which gives you probably the straightest cut. You could use an X-Acto knife. And okay. And then what I like to do is take this and fold it back so that you have like a triangle. It's like a right triangle. And then I'm going to press down and I'll score that. Okay. I'm going to do that to the other side also. I'm going to fold it back so it forms a right triangle. And then I'm going to score it. Or burnish it, excuse me. And that's not even, so I'm going to have to fix that because I don't like that. I'll probably have to fix it when I can see that that's not even, so I'm going to have to fix it with my decorations. Yeah, I'm going to have to fix it with my decorating. You won't notice it when I'm done. Okay, so now I'm going to glue this closed. Doesn't matter which side you have on top. I'm just going to put a thin line of my art glitter glue. I say that, but my lid is clogged. Let's try that again. Every time I come on here to record, I get a clogged glue bottle. I don't understand it. Come on. Okay. All right, and then I'm just going to press that side down. Give it a good burnish so it stays nice and neat. I can tell that I need a little bit more glue. And I am using the white artisan cardstock that you can purchase at countrycraftcreations.com. It's an online scrapbooking store. Okay, so that's going to be the first one, and like I said, this doesn't meet exactly perfect in the middle. I shall fix it once I start decorating. Okay, now the other type of closure, or excuse me, the other type of front, rather than have the cutting down and folding it over, I'm going to try to do one other style, just so, like I said, it's a little bit not as repetitive when you're going through the album. So I'm going to go ahead and burnish my score lines again, making sure everything's lined up. Okay, and this time I'm just going to cut a little rectangle out from the top, and then I'm going to round the corner. So I'll probably go, let's see, let's make this about 1.5 inches. I think that's I'll like that, about 1.5. And let's have, I'm gonna 1, let's go 3/4 of an inch over. So a tally at the 3/4 and a tally at the 3/4 on the other side. And these are adjustable. I mean, you can do it any measurement you want. Maybe you want it to be an inch. And now I'm just going to use my X-Acto knife, I think, on this one. Let me draw the lines first so I stay straight. And okay. Line up my paper here so that it's nice and straight. Okay, so I'm going to cut out that rectangle that I just marked. Probably better use my ruler. And then if you have any pencil marks, you're going to want to go ahead and erase those. And I do see that I have some pencil marks, so I want to get rid of that. Okay, and now I'm going to take my corner rounder and round the corner. Let me get a different one. That one doesn't fit very well. Where's the one I want? There it is. Oh, that wasn't good. So that rounded the corner like so. And like so. Okay. And now we can go ahead and glue our envelope closed. Okay. And there's about, again, about a 3/4 to a 1 inch overlap. Press down real well. Okay, and then we're going to do 2 more, one of each style. So I want it to be one like this and one like this, and now I'm going to do another one like this and then another one like this. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and then I will be back. It is time to do our scoring, and before we start, I want to remind you, I hope I remember to put the correction when I'm uploading this video, but there were 2 mistakes that I made, and I caught them before I started doing my scoring. So on this pocket, remember there were 4 of them and we cut them at 6 by 8 3/4. That's incorrect. It should be 8 1/2, not 8 3/4. Okay, so if you're gonna make a mistake, it's better to cut it too big than too small, but change that to 8 1/2. And then the second mistake, yes, the second one, I had, nope, not that one. We cut 4 and I said 6 3/4 by 3 1/4. That should not be 6 3/4. It should be 6 1/2 by 3 1/4. So I apologize. Hopefully, like I said, I remember to put that up on as a note when I upload this. So okay, so those are the new measurements. Let's go ahead and do our scoring. We're going to place this on the 8.5 inch side on our scoreboard, and we're going to make 3 score marks on each end. We're going to go in 1/2 increments, so let's do 1/2, 1, and 1.5. Okay, turn it 180 degrees and do the same thing. 1/2, 1 inch, 1.5. Okay, let's go ahead and do an accordion fold when we fold this. So starting with the first score line closest to the center, I'm going to bend that back, and it's like fanning. The next score line comes forward, and the next score line goes back. Okay, so if you do it correctly, it'll look like so. Okay, and we're going to do that on the other side too. Going back and forth. So this one I'm folding one direction and the other one goes back out and then back in. And you're going to do that to all 4 pieces. I'm just doing it to 1 to show you. I've already done the other 3. Okay, so it will look like that. And then this is the piece that we're going to glue to our main base page. So that's why we want this one to be in, so that it can attach to the base. Next, this is the smaller pocket on the front. Remember, it is 6.5 by 3 1/4. This one we're not going to accordion because we don't want too much bulk. So we're just going to do 1/2 inch on one end, turn it around, and then I do a 1/2 again on the other end. I am not going to do a 1/2 inch down here because, like I said, I don't want the bulk, so I'll just end up gluing this and it will be a flatter pocket. You're going to want to burnish those score lines, and you will do that to all 4 pieces. Next, you have 8 pieces that measure 1.5 by 4 1/4, and those I told you correctly. You're going to place it on the 4 1/4 inch side, and I just do, you can either do one, let's just do 1/2 inch. 1/2 inch. If you want, if you like to score from the right hand side, then it would be 3 3/4. So either one, 1/2 on the left or 3 3/4 on the right. And then you're going to burnish all of those. Okay, so do all 8 of them. And last, we have the long pocket, and we end up putting some glue in the center so that when our book is standing up, the pieces of ephemera don't fall. But we'll just put it, instead of making 2 separate pockets, I just made 1 long pocket, and then we'll put a line of glue. This one, let's go ahead and start on the 11 inch side, and let's do 1/2 inch. Turn it so we're on the 3 1/2 inch side and do 1/2 inch. Turn it one more time and 1/2 inch. Let's go ahead and burnish. Okay. Do this to all 4 of them this size. So now we are going to, let me start with this one. I'm going to take one of my base pages, and I'm going to take one of the pieces that we did the accordion fold on, and that's going to attach like so. And we're just going to place glue, or you can place some sort of sticky strip or score tape on each side, and we're going to lay it down. And we're also going to put, I'm going to put a line of glue here so that it lays flat down at the bottom. And you're still going to have this part will still be open so you can attach it to a hinge. Okay, so I think I will just use art glitter glue, and I'm going to Now you want to make sure you adhere this first before you put any decorative paper on, because when we put the decorative paper on, we're going to want to make sure that we cover up that white that we're gluing down. So let's go ahead and I will show you what I do. As I put my glue, I put a little dab here at the bottom and here so it's flat, a thin line across the bottom, little piece of glue so it stays, and now I'm putting glue on the other 1/2 inch. I'm going to pinch those and line them up at the, make sure that it's lining up top to bottom, side to side. And give it a good burnish, and if you have any glue seeping out, go ahead and get your dry wet wipe. If you have clothespins, you might want to put some of those on to help it. Okay. And so this one there'll be more room to put some things in. Now originally I made this base page wider, and you can, because I have our cover as 6 3/4 inches going across, whereas these pages end up being 5 1/2. But I thought if I had something kind of sticking out to the side, having that larger cover would kind of hide that. I don't want a bunch of crazy things falling off the sides of my book, but I do want to have some things coming out. So that's why I went with those measurements, if that makes sense. Okay, I feel like I haven't crafted in a long time. I feel kind of rusty today. I don't know why. Okay, so that's sealed shut, but the main base page is not. All right, and let's go ahead and put the piece that measured 6, what was it, 6 1/2 by 3 1/4, the one that we did a 1/2 inch on each end. We're going to glue that to the on top of the accordion pocket, and again we're going to have glue on the sides and then just a thin line down here at the bottom. I am going to go ahead and taper just to make sure I don't see anything. So just taper this on the top and the bottom. Okay, so I just tapered those, and I just think being we're putting glue down here anyway, it'll work out better. Okay, make sure everything will line up, which mine does, and I'm going to put my adhesive on the 1/2 inch sides, and then just a thin line down at the bottom. Okay, line it up. Press down. Get rid of any extra glue that's coming out. And then we're going to make sure that we burnish real well. Okay, I just dropped my burnishing tool. Okay. And then let's go ahead and burnish this side. I started back to work this week with the kids, and I'm feeling a little off my game a little bit. Okay, and so that is going to be our front, and then we'll add decoration with our decorative paper, and we can do trims and put things inside. I'll probably, for pictures, place a mat, cut a mat that will go all the way down. That will be great for pictures. Go ahead and turn this over, and now we're going to do the back. And for the back, now I'm alternating. I'm going to put on this style, I'm going to put the pocket on this side, and then on this style I'm going to put the pocket on this side probably, okay, so that they go back and forth. So let's go ahead and get one of our long pieces that we did a 1/2 inch on 3 sides. I'm going to go ahead and miter. And I'm going to wait to miter the top until I have my adhesive on. And this time I think I'll use score tape. I don't know why. I just go back and forth, I guess. And I'm going to use, I want 3/8 of an inch, I think. That's what I'm going to use. You can use your art glitter glue. Don't go over your score lines. Okay. And score tape on the sides. Make sure that's down real well. And then I am going to go ahead and miter the top here. Just a little bit. Okay. Okay, so turn your pocket, your base over. And like I said, I'm going to put this one here. Okay, that will go here. We're eventually, like I said, going to put a bead of glue down the center once we have our decorative paper on, so that it is a stopper for anything we put in here. We're also going to be attaching a flap to also keep things in the pocket. So let's go ahead and take off our backing. So I usually don't do a whole lot of loaded envelopes, just because I think, okay, what do I do with them? They're cute. Some of them are absolutely beautiful. But after you use the goodies inside, I guess you could re-gift it. But I never know what to do with it. So I thought this was a good way to use the loaded envelope idea and have it in a mini album, which is what I love to make. Go ahead and burnish. And that was perfect on top. Yay. No overhang. And now we're going to go ahead and you can get 2 of your small ones, and you can either measure or you can eyeball, whichever you prefer. And we're just going to glue, let's see, I'm at, let's go 2 inches up, and let's see if that's at about 2 inches, 2 inches down. Yeah, let's do 2 and 2. So I'm going to put some glue on the hinge, not the hinge, where we scored the 1/2 inch. We're going to butt it up to the very side here. I'm going to use my score pal to help me know where the 2 inch mark is. And right there. I'm going to open and burnish with my finger. Okay, now we're going to end up putting a magnet here and a magnet here so that it will stay closed. And let's go ahead and do the top one. Using my scoreboard, I'm going to measure down 2 inches to know where to put it. I'm going to go ahead and open it up, push down real well. Okay. I am going to go ahead and put the magnets on now so I don't forget. So let me see, I have different kinds of magnets. For this one, I think I'm just going to use these smaller ones. Do I want these smaller ones or do I want the basic gray big ones? Oh, I have enough big ones. Let's do that. That's awfully big though for this. I don't know. This shouldn't be that hard of a decision, should it? I decided to go with the small ones again. Okay. Now these that I have do not have adhesive on the back, so we have to put some on the back. And so I'm just going to take a tiny piece of score tape and place it on the back. And I probably will use the 1/4 inch to do that. And you just need a tiny piece. Okay, so I just put a tiny piece of score tape on there. I'm going to turn it over. Now I have 2 together. They're really thin. And on the back of the other one, I'm going to put a little piece of score tape. Okay, take the backing off of one. And let's take a look at where we want this. So the magnet's going to go probably about a 1/2 inch up from the edge. So about right there. Push down. Now I'm going to take the backing off of this magnet, close it, push, and there we go. And I'm just going to put a little piece on top. This time I'm going to use the smallest. I don't like using the real thick stuff to hold the magnet down. I'm just going to use 1/8 just to hold it. Okay, one more set of magnets up here. Got 2. I'm going to go through the same procedure. Got to put a little bit of score tape on these, and then turn it over and do the other one. Take the backing off. Take a look, make sure we know the correct placement of our magnet. So again, about a 1/2 inch up, or from the end. Push down, make it stick, and then let's go ahead and take the backing off. Push down. And let's secure it with 1/8 inch score tape. Okay. Now again, I'm going to put a strip of bead of glue, but not until I do my matting. Now, when I do my matting, I go 1/8 inch smaller than what it measures. So this is 5.5 across. So all of my papers on the front, I'm going to go 5 3/8 across. And this particular, the bottom pocket is 3 1/4, so I'm going to make it 3 1/8 high. Okay. Now, some people, to save paper, when you do this pocket, you don't have to put your paper all the way down. I just put it usually far enough down that you won't be able to see any white. So you can decide how far you want it to go down. This one I'll probably go down pretty far because it's accordion and it opens, and so I want to make sure that you don't see anything. I'm going to go ahead and mat the inside. Again, you can do all the way down if you want, or just do it a little bit so that when you first look at it, you don't see any white. Okay, so let me put the decorative paper, the Flirty Fleur, on one and show you what it looks like. I'm going to mat the page that has the little rectangle taken out of it. And so the bottom piece, if you want to, if your measurements are the same as mine, is 5 3/8 by 3 1/8. I did already ink the edges. Okay, so I got a little something on this white paper. So I'm just going to go ahead and make sure it fits before I glue it down. And I thought I'd show you one of each because you might have a question about how to do this part, and the way I did it may not be the easiest or the best, but it's what worked for me, and so I'll show you what I did. Okay. The next piece is 5 3/8, and I think I went down 4 1/2. Yeah, I went down 4 1/2. It'll go down a little bit past this. About like so. And I went ahead and already inked my edges again. But this is a project that is really kind of fast, and the measurements are easy to work with. And when you're matting, you don't have a ton to mat. The fun part is going to be adding this stuff inside the pockets, and I'm going to add things that someone could use to, like, I'll put the cut aparts in like a cellophane bag and decorate the bag and put it in there. So my gussets are going to have to be probably 3/4 of an inch rather than the standard, well, not standard, but than 1/2 inch. I'll go 3/4. So it just gives me a little bit of space to add some embellishments and stuff. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and do the inside piece, and again I went 5 3/8, and I didn't go all the way down. I went probably, what did I do? This one I just did about 4 1/2. Already inked the top edge. You don't need to do the other edges because they're not going to be seen. Okay, and just stick that in there, slide it down, okay, all right, so this next piece is the one that was a little bit tricky. Well, not really. What I did was I had saved the rectangle that I used to cut out of this, and I cut this paper 5 3/8 by about 7 1/4, and all I did was lay this rectangle on top and cut out the rectangle, and then I rounded the corners. Because this is a little bit shorter, it worked pretty well. However, I had to do some adjusting. Like I didn't cut this low enough, so I had to go back and cut a little bit lower. But this was a great guide for me, and that's what I thought was easiest. Now, it's not perfect around the opening, but because of this style of album, it's going to be very decorated, and so, I mean, it's pretty good. You won't notice that stuff once everything is in there, and you have pictures and flowers and embellishments and all that kind of good stuff. So that's what I did for that piece. So if you already threw away that rectangle, you might want to cut out another one. Or like I said, maybe you have a better idea. I kind of racked my brains a little bit trying to think of what would be the easiest. And I'm sure there was probably an easier way, but for me, that's the only one I could come up with. Okay, so make sure that you're covering that white paper where the pocket attaches. Slide it down. Okay, and go ahead and burnish. Now, I don't know about you, look at how filthy my hands are. Do you guys get that when you're crafting? I don't know. Maybe I'm just, I don't know. Maybe because I use my hands more than I should. Okay, that's beside the point. Next, I'm going to go ahead and do the back. You need 4 pieces that were 1 3/8 by 3 5/8 for the closures. You need one that is 9 7/8 by, well, depends how far down you want it to go. Let me see what I did. Okay, now before I start this, so my album, this is going to flip forward so that I can see the next page. So I want to decorate it upside down so that the direction of the paper is correct. Okay, so if you don't have directional paper, that's fine. But again, it's going to be like this. I'm going to bring it forward so I want the direction of the paper so I can see it when it's laying down. So this is going to go here. Like I said, it was 9 5/8 by 2 7/8. I did ink already. I'm using black soot. Take off the backing from the magnets. And after I do this matting on this side, I'm going to put that line of glue to divide my pocket, or at least so it holds things better as it flips and things don't fall out. So I'm going to line this up. Okay. And you want to make sure that you burnish real well on top where the magnet was so that the paper lays down, especially if you have a thicker magnet. Okay. Now, I loved this paper, but you're only going to see part of it. These are some little cut aparts. What are they? 2 1/2? They're about 2 3/8 actually. No. 2 1/4. Yeah, almost. Okay, so I cut this 9 5/8. And it's pretty good. You can see the whole card. You can see a little bit of the next one, but not a ton. So this one is sometimes tricky to put in because it gets stuck on the seam where you combined the base paper, but just got to work with it and it'll be fine. Okay. It's funny, I've been paying attention to how people glue on their matte paper. I guess I have nothing better to do. And some people do lines, some people do squiggles, some people do just little circle-y, curly cues. I usually do wiggly lines. Okay. Finish it real well. We can go ahead and do the inside, and I just use some scraps. I think I told you the measurements of this one already. If you don't have a strong enough magnet, by the time you mat with this paper, sometimes they don't close as well, so you want to make sure you get a good magnet. Okay. Again, you want to make sure that you get it down real well around that magnet so the paper doesn't pop up. And the next one. Okay. Burnish that puppy. And then the only thing we have to do on this one is the outside flap. And then it's time to add your embellishments, which I don't do that on camera. I just show you the end result. And then after I do the next type of page and show you how I matted that one, I'll just show you how I mat the top, because that's the one that has the pieces that come that fold over and they look a little triangular. Then all we have to do is the cover, and I'm thinking I'm going to make the cover look like an envelope, a loaded envelope too, so it should be cute. I wanted to make sure that the base was wide enough that it will stand without falling down, because these are pretty tall pages. So let's hope that I did my measurements correctly and that it does stand up. Otherwise I'll be one cranky little girl. It should be fine. I say that to encourage myself. I've been thinking about it ever since I started making it, like, ooh, is this gonna be too tall? But we'll make it work. Okay, so there is the back. So again, make sure you decorate it upside down if you have directional paper. Okay, let me get the next one ready. On this last one, I went ahead and matted everything except for this part so I could show you how I did it. I just took my paper, this is 5 3/8 again across, and I just did a length that I happen to have. What is this one? This one is 8 inches long. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put these up, and I'm going to go ahead and glue this, and then I'm going to make a slit after I glue it. Okay, so went ahead and inked the edges again, and because it's already slit or cut, it's going to be easy for us to see where we need to cut when we look inside the envelope. Okay, so let's go ahead and slide this down. Okay, so it's covering the slit, and I'm burnishing it. Then I'm going to look inside, and you can see the slit right here. So I'm just going to take my scissors and cut down. Let's see. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and ink my edges. Trying to even that out a little bit. Okay. So I'm going to ink those edges. Make sure that the paper is down real well before I fold it back. And I'm just going to, I need to cut it a hair more. Okay, and crease it. It's a little bit thicker now. And I have a little bit of overhang, so I'm going to trim that. Okay. And now I'm going to fold this one back. I'll probably have to do some trimming. Take that out. Okay, and I can see the paper, so I'm going to go ahead and trim down here to get that taken care of. Okay. Just cleaning it up a little bit. Okay, so now that that's folded back, I wanted there to be paper on the back. So now I took a square and I measured how long, and it was about 2.5, so I cut my paper, it was actually 2 5/8, so I cut it to 2.5 and by about 2.5. So I cut a square, and now I'm just going to cut this diagonally and then put the other half over here. So I'm going to get my cutter. Oh, moved. I hope I made that clear. I measured how long and how wide this section was, and I cut out a square that large. Now I'm cutting it in half. I think that made sense. Okay, corner to corner. And you might have to do some trimming. That's pretty close. And then this one will fit on the other side. And I really don't have to do that much trimming. So there's that. That's how I did the folded over part. On this back page, I want to put that glue there. So I'm going to open up the flaps. The length of my book is 10 inches, so I'm going to find the 5-inch mark, and so this is where I'm going to be putting a line of glue. It's smack dab in the middle. And it's not, I mean, it's just enough to keep things from falling. And I don't even know if I got it all the way down to the bottom, but it doesn't matter as long as I got, probably I got it about 3/4. Okay, let me do that one more time. 5-inch mark. So about right here on that white line. And that way, let's see. So when I have something inside and I flip the page, it's not going to fall down. Okay. Okay. All right, I'm going to go ahead and embellish. I will show you the pages when I'm done embellishing, and we'll do the cover. To prep the cover, you need to take each piece of your chipboard. Remember, this was 6 3/4 by 11, and put some score tape on the back. I used the 8.5 by 11 sheets, and boy did it go fast. So do that for both pieces of your 6 3/4 by 11, and then also your 4 by 6 3/4 pieces. Put adhesive, a strong adhesive on the back. I don't use glue for covers. I think that it's way more durable and you get less rippling if you use the score tape. The next thing you're going to need to do for the cover is to cut 3 pieces of cardstock. You're going to need 3 that are 8 3/4 by 12. Okay, so we're going to adhere these or put these together, and it's going to make a really long, I have terrible shadow, sorry, it's going to be a really long piece of paper. So I'm going to do my best to keep everything in frame, but That may not be as easy as I think. So I have already cut mine 8 3/4 by 11, and we're just going to have a little bit of an overlap on our where we combine them. And so this, I do actually use the art glitter glue to combine. I used to use the score tape, but I think this does a better job of having it lay flat. And so I'm just going to do a thin line close to the edge. And then line it up top and bottom. And go ahead and burnish it so it's adhered real well. I'm going to go ahead and flip it over and just give it a burnish on that side also. Get rid of any excess glue that seeps through. Okay. Now I'm going to move this down, and hopefully you'll be able, yeah, you can see. And now I'll adhere the last piece. Again, just a little bit of an overlap. We're going to need close to 36 inches to wrap this long cover, and so this, we don't want to overlap too much that we run out of room in the end when we're trying to cover our chipboard. Okay. Line it up top and bottom. Let's go ahead and adhere that, or burnish that. And so now it should be pretty close to 36, maybe 35 1/4, something like that. Okay. Put the pin back in my, let me turn off, I don't know if I'll be able to see very well, but let me turn this off and see if that helps with the shadow. Okay, so I am going to use my, I think they use this kind of ruler for quilting, and I'm going to use this as a guide. So I want 1 inch, I want to place my chipboard 1 inch from the bottom and from the side. So if I line this up, that helps me keep everything nice and neat. Okay, so I will be able to place this on here. Now we are going to start with an 8 1/2 or a 6 3/4 by 11, and it doesn't go this way, obviously it's going to go this way. Okay, and so we're going to look at our ruler and just line it up and push it down so it's like so. So if you don't have a ruler, you can draw a line with a pencil. Some people score it. I just use the actual ruler to help. Okay, so I'm going to press down real hard on my ruler so it doesn't move. 1 inch from the edge and 1 inch from the bottom. I'm going to butt it up against the ruler and lay it down. Now that is pretty close to my seam. I probably should have tried to avoid that. Next, we're going to place a piece of 1/4 inch score tape after that. That will give you just the right amount of spacing between the two pieces. And I really wish I would have watched that first. You don't really want your book to bend on the fold where you put the two pieces of paper, but it's too late now for me. The next, we're going to put one of the 6 3/4 by 4s. Let me just double check that I'm not going to be in another seam next time. Nope, it'll be fine. Okay, so just my first one was kind of an oops. Now I'm going to go ahead and put the ruler back down so that it lines up on the 1 inch so that I can lay it down nice and straight. Take the backing off. using these larger sheets is such a time saver for putting it down, but also for taking off the backing. You don't have all those individual sheets. It's nice. Okay, so remember, we're not going this way, we're going this way, so that it is 6 3/4 going up and down. I'm going to butt it up right against my ruler and that score tape. Press down. Okay, let's move it down a little bit. Another piece of 1/4 inch score tape between all pieces of chipboard. We want our next 6 3/4 by 11 piece. Let's go ahead and line up our ruler on the 1 inch. Look at that, one large piece. It's so nice. I think I've said before, I really like the 6 by 6 sheets too. Okay. And let's press down hard on the ruler so it doesn't move. Butt it up against the ruler and the score tape and drop it. Let's move it down. I'm running out of room. 1/4 inch. Let me just double check that I have enough room here. Nope. I'm gonna run out of room. I'm gonna have to add another piece of paper. So 3 pieces was not enough. Let me get a little piece and add to the end. So I'm gonna add an 8 3/4 by I'll probably put 5 inches on just to make sure. Okay, so I just took one of the scraps that I got from cutting down my 12 by 12. So I had a little strip left and I just cut it down to 8 3/4, and that should be a big enough piece to adhere down to the end. So let me, I'm trying to get it so you can see. So I'm just going to add a thin line of glue. I really thought 3 full 12-inch sheets would work, but once you add the score tape in between, that obviously adjusts it a little bit. Okay, and I'll make sure I add that on nice and straight again. Okay, now we'll have enough room for our chipboard. Should have checked that ahead of time, sorry. Okay. So let's go ahead and continue placing our chipboard. I need a piece of 1/4 between the next piece. Lay your ruler down at the 1 inch. Take the backing off and layer down. Okay, press down so it doesn't move. Butt it up against the score tape and the ruler. And the last one, 1/4 inch spacer. And our last piece of 6 3/4 by 4. Okay, ruler at 1 inch. Okay, now I am going to turn it over and give it a good burnishing. Okay. Now we do have a little bit of excess now at the end. You really only need a 1 inch. So if you want to trim that, you can. I think I'll go ahead and do it while I'm thinking about it. I'll just cut that off. For some reason, this mat still, even though it's self-healing, it still shows the cut marks. So I'm going to place this underneath. Kind of bugs me. Okay. And now we should have it at the perfect, there we go, perfect. Okay. The next step is to place some score tape now around the perimeter of your white paper and around the perimeter of your chipboard. So I'm going to use, on the chipboard I usually use 1/4, and on the white paper then I'm going to use 3/4. So we're just going to run a single layer from one end all the way to the other along the edge. Move it down. Okay, so there's one. Let's go ahead and flip it over and do the other long side. Wow, I really hate that this is in the crease. Okay, close to the edge as you can get it. And we'll burnish that in just a second. Let's go ahead and finish by putting it on the end, the short ends. Wow, this, oops, sorry about that. This is such a long covering. Didn't mean to make you dizzy by hitting the camera. Okay, so we just want to make sure that that's on real well. Alright, now with the 3/4 inch score tape, we are going to end up mitering our corners. So we're going to end up cutting a little section off the end. So you don't have to put your score tape all the way to the end. That's kind of a waste. So I'm just going to move it over a little bit. And I'll start about right there. And again, as close to the edge as you can. It does take a lot of score tape, but it's worth it because your book will last a lot longer. It stays real nice. Okay, I'm going to flip it, try not to bump the camera. Just along the edges. And that should work. And now the short ends. This is when you need a really long table. Okay, and again, go ahead and burnish just to make sure it's on there real well. Now, because this is such a long piece, we are going to have to be careful when we wrap it that we just do little sections and move our way down so that it stays nice and neat. It might have to do some detail work and make sure it's flat. So let's take out before we forget, the middle sections that we put the spacers, let's take those out. Backings. Okay, I got them pretty close, so I gotta be real careful that I can get it all off. Good. Next one. Come on. Can't get a grip. There we go. Two more. Come on. I did, right when I think I get it, then it. Come on. So close. There we go. Ah. Oh, there we go. Oh my gosh, it keeps ripping on me. They're pretty close together. I laid that chipboard right on top of that. Boy, this one's being feisty. Okay, let's see how we do on this last one. So far, good one. Perfect. All right, let me get rid of my scraps. So what I like to do next is train my paper, and when I say that, I mean we're going to bend the book, or place the book up on its side and bend the paper to give it a memory as to where it's supposed to fold. And because it is so long, you have to do it in sections. Okay, and then you might want to take your bone folder and just kind of, now I'm using a paper that's really strong, so I can give it a real strong burnish. If you're not using a real heavy duty or high quality paper, just be careful so that you don't rip any of your paper. That would not be good. Okay, let's do the other side. Just bring it up, bend the paper off to the around it. Go ahead and take your burnishing or your bone folder, go around the edges so it folds up real nice. And the two ends. And then we'll miter. Now when I miter, I have a tool I use just to help to make sure I leave enough on the corners so that you don't see the chipboard. And then I just take my X-Acto knife and okay, so you do need to leave just a little bit of space between the paper and the chipboard so that when you fold it over, it does cover that corner. Give it a second to focus. Maybe. Okay. And let's miter the bottom. Getting a new blade on my cutter. Let's turn it around and do the other two corners. last one. And you can throw away those corners. All right, so what I do the long sides first, and I do put a bead of glue around the chipboard just so it kind of loosens the fibers, and when you take your paper around the chipboard, it just lays really flat. And so that is an optional step, but I like to do that. I'm going to go ahead and start taking off the backing of the score tape. And I'll do the sides too. Okay, I'm going to put that bead of glue along the chipboard at the bottom here. Okay, give that a second. And now I'm going to start towards the center and push my paper up over the chipboard and kind of flatten it as I go. Have my bone folder ready. So I'm going to work my way down one end, pushing up. Now come down, do the same thing down here. And now I'm going to take this and burnish it really well. And it turned out nice and flat, no ripples. And then I am going to go along the edge just to make sure that it's staying real nice up on the edges and adhering to that chipboard. Perfect. Let's turn it around and do the other long side. Take off your backing. Let's go ahead and put that bead of glue if you're doing that step. I've said it before, but I used to be intimidated by doing the covers. Now I really like it. Now that I feel comfortable with the process, I think it takes a while. And you still, I mean, to err is human. You still make mistakes, just like I did by putting that one piece so close to that seam where I combined the papers. But at that point, it was too late to fix. So hopefully I can put some reinforcement on the outside, maybe some lace or something so it stays nice. Okay, give it a second just to kind of soak into the fibers. Start in the center, pushing that paper up and over and pressing it down flat, working your way down. And the other end, pushing it up, flattening it as you go. I thought that might be trickier being as it was such a long piece, but it turned out pretty good. And I'm burnishing. And along the edges, so that the paper sticks real nice to the edge of the chipboard where we put the glue. Okay, and the back or the short piece. Now we do want to make sure that we get those corners covered, and so we're going to push in. I just use my fingernail. We're just going to push in these sides so that there's not, so that the paper covers the corner. There are other ways of doing the corners, so that if you're somebody who always has your chipboard showing, there's another way that you can do it by cutting out more of a square rather than mitering it at an angle. I just happen to like the look of the mitered corner. Okay, bring it over, lay it flat. I have a little space here that I want to glue down. There we go. Good, and there's no chipboard showing on the corners. We do not want corners showing. Okay, last one. Push in those corners so it goes around. You don't see it. And I'm just going to put a dab of glue here so it stays nice and lays flat. Up and over. No chipboard is showing. Score that. Good. Or not score it, burnish it. And there you go. So now we want to make sure that we have taken our burnishing tool and we go and kind of get the paper to stick in between the pieces of chipboard. Get this pin in here. Okay, so let me find, there it is. We just kind of want to go in between and gently make sure it's sticking in between the pieces of chipboard. Again, if you're not using a real thick paper or durable paper, be careful so it doesn't rip. And so this is not a book that's sideways, it's going to stand up and down. So we're going to make sure. Ta-da! Okay, so it's going to be like so. And it should be able to stand because we did a 4-inch. It should be, once we put the binding in our pages. So yes, it looks nice. I'm happy with how that turned out. So now we need to place either decorative paper or white paper on the inside. You decide. I think I don't know. I think I want decorative paper. So I'm going to lay down my decorative paper, except for here I'm going to do white. And then I'm going to do the rest decorative. Is that what I'm going to do? Maybe I'll do decorative here too. When we lay this down, we want to go 1/8 of an inch smaller. So if this is measuring 6 3/4, we want 6 5/8. And then you just need enough to go all the way across. Okay, so you can do, like I said, a solid color. You could do this panel one, this one a different one. It's just kind of preference. So let me look at my papers and see what I want to do. I decided to go with white because I wanted to make sure that I had enough of the Flirty Fleur paper to make the embellishments and to put things inside of the pockets. And so white was what I ended up going with. So what I did was I cut 3 pieces, excuse me, that are 6 5/8 by 12. Okay, so you need 3 of those. I put score tape around the outside edge of each of those 3. And I also like to put score tape in between the pieces of chipboard, just right along the edge, so I have, so that it lays flat and sticks real well. So score tape on the edge of the chipboard where we have our gussets, our spaces. Okay. Now I'm going to put one end on, then I'm going to place the other end on, and then I'll go to the center. And I want to make sure that I don't have the end of a paper like right here in the center of that, because then it'll affect the wear and tear of your book. So I'm going to do one end, place one here, then I'll move it all the way to the other end and place one there, making sure that it doesn't end in a space. And then I'm going to take the last piece and do the middle last and just overlap it. Okay, so let's go ahead and do one end. Now I did put the score tape around the perimeter, but I am going to put glue on the inside. So let's see, I'm going to need to take these two off, two sets. It's raining pretty good here. You can hear it. And let's take the backing off of the cardstock. Make sure if you have any overhang of tape that you push that in. Okay, let's put some adhesive in the center. And you can choose to do all score tape. That would be pretty pricey. I don't know, it might lay really super nice for you, but being as we have it just around the perimeter and around the pieces that meet on the chipboard, I've had good luck with that. Okay, so that's about how much glue. I want to line it up real carefully. I like my paper real close to the edge. Check the top and the bottom. Okay, now let's go ahead and burnish that real well. And eventually we're going to really work with those creases so that the book folds nice. Okay, nice and smooth. I tried using it once without any score tape around the edges, and boy was I sorry about that. Okay, I'm going to turn around and do the other end. We're going to line that up again, make sure it doesn't go end in a crease, and it doesn't. So let's go ahead and take off the backing of our score tape. There we go. And I can see I have a little bit of overhang there that I want to push over the corner so it doesn't stick out. Okay, and let's put some adhesive in the center. Okay, carefully place it so that you have the same distance on the top and the bottom, because once you have score tape down, boy, whew, that is hard to get up. Burnish it real well. And now we have the centerpiece left. And for this, just again, make sure that your paper, I'm just going to center it and it does not land on a crease. Okay, so that is perfect. And take the backing off the last one. almost forgot my glue. Don't know what I did before the art glitter glue. It's so much more economical than putting score tape on everything, and I really feel like for most things it's equal in strength and durability. There are a couple things, you know, like the cover that I've talked about, but this stuff is pretty magical. Okay, let's line it up in the center so that there's the same amount of overlap and that the pieces line up. Yay, love it when it works out. That looks nice and sharp, crisp. So now I'm just going to kind of train it by folding the book so that the paper goes into those spaces and make sure that they stick to the chipboard. Be careful if you are using a paper that may not be the highest quality so that you don't have any ripping. Have another one here. Make sure that you give it a good tuck inside that crease. And then the last one that I'm worried about is that one that I had go in my seam. But now that we have more paper covering it, we might have better luck. Yeah, I think we're going to be okay. All right. So now we have the inside done. And now I'm going to put some magnets on this piece here so that it will stay closed. And I would much rather put too many magnets on this part than not enough. And I'm going to use the best ones out there to me, which is the basic gray. It looks like this. You can get it from Country Craft Creations. They have two different sizes. These are the larger ones. Okay, so I'm going to do, I'm trying to decide if I want 2 or 3 magnets because, like I said, I would much rather, drop my pins, much rather have it be too much than not enough. I don't want the book to flap open. So I'm trying to decide 2 or 3. 2 on the end, 1 in the center. I think that's what I'm going to do. Yeah, so I'm going to use 3 sets. And that might be overkill, but you can decide what you want to do. So let's get those ready. Put a plus and a minus together. Now, isn't that weird? I'm going to have an oddball one. How'd that happen? I must have made a mistake sometime and used, that's crazy. I shouldn't have an extra one, but I do. I'll get one out of this next package. And I'll need a plus from this one. Positive, not plus, positive. Oh my goodness. Okay, come on. And then there's a protective plastic sheet we need to take off. There we go. And pop out a positive. Okay. And just like we did we've done magnets on other things, like the page where we had, what am I trying to say? Just like we did these, we're going to do it the same way. So these already have adhesive on it. So I'm just gonna, I don't want it too close to the edge so that when I put my decorative paper down that it shows, or that there's a ripple or a bump. I'm going to place the negative side down on all of them. There we go. And let's see, probably about right there. And I'll do the next side. Because this is a standing book, it's really important to me that it stays shut. So that's why I decided on 3. And one more. If I get the backing off. There we go. And press down real well. And now we're going to take off the backing and then lay it on top here. And where it meets, we're going to push real hard and then separate them. And then cover them with just a little bit of score tape to keep them in place. 2 and 3. Okay, so we want to make sure we line up our book exactly the way we want it. So I'm going to have to stand mine up. So I can make sure that everything lines up and that my magnets land exactly where I want them. Okay. I'm going to press down and see it does stand free. It won't fall over. And once we add the weight of the pages, it should be real sturdy. Let's see. Did they stick? Yay. And so now let's just put a thin, like I said, I just used 1/8 inch to keep them in place. Do that for all 6 pieces. And then the only thing I need to show you is the hinge, and I also will show you how I'm going to decorate the cover. I think I want the cover to look like an envelope also. That's why I have the flap the way it is. Okay, fabulous. Okay. Good strong hold. Okay, so the hinge obviously will be down here, and then our pages are a little bit shorter, remember, when we put those in, and that's so if you have any height to the things you're putting in the envelope, let's say you're putting something up that sticks up, that will still have space in between the top so that it gives it a little bit of room. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is start decorating and putting decorative paper on my outside, and then I'll come back and show you the hinge. I completed decorating the outside using the paper and some embellishments, different embellishments that I've had in my stash. It's a little hard to get it all on camera because of the length, but now that I have the outside the way I want it, I do need to add my pages, and so to do that you need to make a hinge system. Now unfortunately I can't show you how to do the hinge system because there are some people out there who, anyway, I won't go there. You can refer to some of my other tutorials, or you can go to Tammy Merrill's page and look at some of her tutorials. But let's just leave it that. To do the spine or the hinges, you need 4 hinges. The pages are 5.5 across, so I made mine 5 3/8. And I apologize for that. I'll just have to have you pick the kind of hinge system you would like to use. Now I'm going to open this, and I'm going to place some paper on the inside, and so I want it to be directional. I mean, the paper is directional, and when I open the front cover, I want the design to be the right direction. Now I did cut this into 6 inches instead of the full length because I wanted to get as much use out of my paper as I could. So then I just took a 1-inch strip from some leftover paper I had, and I'm just going to put that over here, and then I'll probably add a pocket or add some cut aparts in here. Okay, and then I'm also going to do that on the back page. I did 6 across, 10 7/8 long or high, and then I'm going to do a 1-inch strip, and then I'll just mat these, the top and the bottom here. So let me do that, and then I will, oh, let me show you the pages. Okay, so I have finished decorating the pages. I haven't put anything inside yet, so I'll still have to do that. Let me see if I can get this. Boy, that shines. Well, let's try that. So on this one, I just took some flowers that I had and put them on the corners. I have some wedding trim here. I have a piece of bling in the corner. I used some trim. The black and white checked lace from the store ribbon. I made a bow. This I had in my stash, and this is the chipboard piece. Now when you flip it over, all I did was add some pearls to the closure. Okay, I didn't want to overdo the back. On the next page, I had some metal pieces that fit perfectly on the foldovers. I have some trim, a flower. I took one of the small cut aparts and mounted it on glitter paper, and I have a glitter bow. And then on this side, I did a metal butterfly with a crocheted flower and then a swirl. Okay, so I did that. Again, it's directional. So when you turn it over, you want the butterflies going the right direction. This one, I had some silver bling, a flower from the collection, and this is a chipboard piece from the collection. Had some lace, a butterfly in my stash, and then that swirl again with some little accents. Over on this one, the pearls. Last one, a wedding applique. I had some silver flowers, and I put a crocheted flower on top. In this section, I have some bling with a flower. I had smaller corner pieces of the metal, and then I had a real tiny trim that I put here. And then on this side, I did flowers with bows as my closure. Okay, so I'm going to finish putting the paper on the inside, and then I'm going to attach my pages, and then we'll see how. I'll probably try and show you how to do the pages onto the hinge in case you are not familiar with that. To show you how to put the pages on the hinges, I already did one. Let me show you. This is sideways so that you can see, because the book is so long that it wouldn't fit into the camera. So what you want to do is you want to take a little bit of the backing off on each of the front and the back. Don't take the whole piece off until you get it aligned the way you want it. So I'm going to peel those back, and then I'm going to place my page on the hinge. And I want to eyeball it to make sure it's in the right spot. Okay, and then I'm going to peel off the rest of the tape and press down. And I'm going to take the rest of the backing off the tape on the back and press down. Okay, and then I have 2 more to do. All 4 pages are inside of my book. I thought I'd give you just kind of an overview of what it looks like now that I've added a couple more embellishments and kind of look at it from a different angle. Here's the back. I do have a piece of ribbon and 2 different sheets of paper. And the side, this is what it looks like. And the front, I did add a couple more elements. I added some flowers down in the corner. I added some of the trim on the top. I added a flower up top by the saying. So that's what that looks like. Okay, as I was making this, I kept thinking this will stand up, you know, it's strong. I kept practicing and trying, but as I decorated it, look what happens. It starts to lean. So, because of the height, I think, but this is going to be leaning up against a shelf, the back of a shelf for me. So I can live with it that it leans. But if I were to make it again, I'd make it a little bit shorter, so that's not the case. So like I said, once I started decorating it, it's fine at first, but then it starts to fall. So live and learn, but like I said, I can live with it. So let me show you what it looks like. This I am calling the Loaded Envelope Mini Album. So that lays down. And these are the loaded envelopes. And so inside each envelope, I have a little booklet for pictures. And on the inside, I just put 4.5 by 6.5 pieces of black paper, and then a place to journal, and I left the backs empty. So all of them have an insert like that on the top. Okay. In this middle pocket, I put some of the cut aparts in a bag, and I put a topper on it. So that people, when they want to put their pictures in, have something to decorate or make them tuck spots. So that goes right here in this envelope. And the bow kind of stops it from going all the way down. And then I just put a mat for a picture in the bottom pocket. Okay. So that is the front. And then the back, oh, I don't think I showed you this either. I just added a rosette. Let me see if I can zoom in here just a second. Might be easier to see. And let me look at the resolution here. Okay, so I just used a cut apart, some rosette or some flower trim, and these are from the cut aparts, and they're really long. So this book being 11 inches tall, it was perfect inside of this pocket. Okay, so when this comes forward, each of these has a tag, and I did, I put the trim on in a little bit different way, and it's just because I wanted to make sure that it had some sort of color on it, and it kind of was too long if it stuck out the top, and so I just decided to do something different and put the trim on a little bit differently. The next page, again, it's a similar format. I have the pull-out, the bag of embellishments from the collection with the topper, and I have this for the pictures. Okay, and that goes forward, and it's the same idea with this one, only now instead of the trim I used before, I used a different type of ribbon. So, you know, I don't know if you like that look, but I thought it was just something different to do. It looks good inside. Third page, I have 3 loaded envelopes. Lots of sparkle on this one. Cut aparts and a mat on the back. This is a long book to look at, people. Same idea, it's just tags inside. And then the final page, same idea. Okay, now I did not put anything on the back cover here, but this book is, I mean, it does not have the alligator mouth, and the pages lay flat, and it looks, I think it looks, you know, good from the side. Like I said, live and learn. It's a tall book, and even though I thought a 4-inch base would be enough to make it stand, I'm having some leaning issues. So I'll just have to make sure I put it up against a shelf or a wall. But that's the final book, and they're hopefully you can either use my measurements or adapt it a little bit so that it doesn't lean for you. But I'm really happy with how it turned out look-wise. I wish I could get it to stand, but it's okay. So if you have any questions, let me know. Thanks for watching.